In the heart of the Middle Belt region of Nigeria, where the land is fertile and the rivers run deep, there lives a people known as the Tiv. They are farmers, warriors, and storytellers, proud of their heritage and protective of their traditions. But among all their customs, there is one that outsiders find most curious. The Tiv people will never kill a green snake. Never. Not even if it enters their home. Not even if it crosses their path in the dead of night. To understand why, you must travel back in time, back to an era when kingdoms clashed, when survival meant running, and when the very existence of the Tiv people hung by a thread as thin as spider silk. This is the story of how a snake became sacred. Long ago, before the coming of the colonial powers, before the maps were drawn and borders defined, the Tiv people lived peacefully in their ancestral lands. They cultivated yams and guinea corn. They raised their children in the ways of their fathers. They danced under the moon and honored their ancestors with prayers and libations. But peace, as it often does, came to an end. The Jukwon people, a powerful warrior kingdom from the south, had been expanding their territory. They were fierce fighters, skilled in battle, and their armies had conquered many lands. Their king desired more territory, more subjects, more tribute. And his eyes had turned toward the lands of the Tiv. At first, there were small skirmishes at the borders. A disputed hunting ground here, a disagreement over trade routes there. But tensions grew like storm clouds on the horizon, dark and threatening. Then one day, the storm broke. The Jukwon warriors came in force, thousands strong, armed with spears, arrows, and the confidence of a people who had never known defeat. They swept through Tiv villages like a wildfire through dry grass. Homes burned. Crops were destroyed. The elderly who could not flee were cut down. Children's cries pierced the air. The Tiv people had no choice but to run. This was not cowardice, it was survival. Their warriors fought bravely at the rear, buying time for the women, children, and elders to escape. But they were outnumbered, outmatched, and slowly being pushed back. Move faster, the elders urged. We must reach the river. Thousands of Tiv people fled northward, a desperate stream of humanity carrying what little they could, babies on backs, elderly supported by the young, sacred items clutched in trembling hands. Behind them, they could hear the war cries of the Jukwon warriors, could see the dust clouds raised by their pursuers' feet. The sun beat down mercilessly as they ran. Some fell from exhaustion and had to be carried. Others pushed forward on bleeding feet. Mothers whispered prayers to their children. Warriors looked back anxiously, knowing the enemy was gaining ground. How much farther to the river? Someone called out. Not far now, came the reply. Just beyond that hill. But when they crested the hill and saw the river below, their hearts sank like stones. The river was massive. Swollen from recent rains, it stretched wide and churned with powerful currents. The waters were dark and deep, moving with a force that could sweep away even the strongest swimmer. There was no bridge. no boats. No ford shallow enough to cross. The Tiv people stood on the river bank, trapped between the raging waters and their approaching enemy. Behind them, the war cries grew louder. Ahead, the river mocked them with its impossible breath. "We are finished," someone wept. "The ancestors have abandoned us," another cried. Panic spread through the crowd. Mothers clutched their children tighter. Warriors gripped their weapons, preparing to make a final stand. The elders gathered together, their faces grave with the knowledge that this might be where their people's story ended. Then, the eldest among them, a woman named Cuman whose hair was white as cotton and whose eyes had seen many seasons, raised her voice above the chaos. "We will not despair," she commanded. "The ancestors have not brought us this far to let us perish. We must have faith. We must pray." And so, standing at the edge of doom, the Tiv people lifted their voices in prayer. They called upon their ancestors, upon the spirits of the land, upon any power that might hear their desperate plea. They sang the old songs, the sacred songs, the songs that connected them to powers beyond human understanding. "Save us," they prayed. "Deliver us from our enemies. We are your children. Do not let our line be broken. Do not let our story end here." For a moment, nothing happened. The river continued to rage. The war cries grew closer still. Some of the Tiv had already resigned themselves to death. But then, something changed. The water near the bank began to swirl in a strange pattern, creating a whirlpool that seemed to glow with an otherworldly light. The people stepped back, unsure whether to be afraid or hopeful. And then, it emerged. From the depths of the river, a head appeared. Then a body. Then more, and more, and more. It was a snake, but not like any snake they had ever seen. It was massive, as thick as a full-grown tree, as long as 20 men lying head to foot. Its scales were the most brilliant green, like fresh leaves after rain, and they seemed to shimmer with an inner light. The great green snake rose from the water with a grace that defied its enormous size. It looked at the gathered Tiv people with eyes that held intelligence, compassion, and ancient wisdom. Then, slowly, deliberately, it began to stretch itself across the river. The snake's body formed a living bridge, its tail anchored on one bank, its head reaching to the other side. The scales on its back flattened, creating a pathway wide enough for 3 people to walk side by side. Elder Cuman was the first to understand. With tears streaming down her face, she called out, "The ancestors have answered. Cross. Everyone cross now." At first, people were afraid. To walk on the back of such a creature seemed impossible, perhaps even disrespectful. But the Jukwon warriors were nearly upon them. They could see their figures emerging from the trees. A young warrior named Atangwa stepped forward. "I will go first," he said. He placed one foot on the snake's back, then another. The snake remained perfectly still, steady as stone. Atangwa walked across, and when he reached the other side safely, he raised his spear in triumph. It's safe. Come. Hurry. Then the crossing began in earnest. Mothers with babies, children holding hands, the elderly supported by the young, warriors carrying the injured, they all crossed on the back of the great green snake. The creature never moved, never wavered, though the weight of thousands must have been tremendous. All the while, the Jukwang warriors drew closer. Their arrows began to fall among the last Tiv people waiting to cross. But the Tiv warriors who had already crossed shot arrows back, covering their fleeing people. The last Tiv person to cross was a young girl who had stopped to help an injured warrior. As her feet touched the far bank, the Jukwang warriors reached the river's edge. They raised their spears to throw, but before they could, the great green snake slowly, gracefully withdrew. It slipped back into the water, creating waves that pushed the Jukwang warriors back. And then it was gone, disappeared into the depths as mysteriously as it had come. The Jukwang warriors stood on the opposite bank, furious but helpless. The river was too wide, too dangerous to cross. They had lost their prey. On the far bank, the Tiv people collapsed in exhaustion and relief. They had survived. Their tribe would live on. Their children would grow up and have children of their own. Elder Kuman stood and raised her hands for silence. When the people had gathered around her, she spoke with a voice that carried the weight of destiny. Today, we have witnessed a miracle, she said. When we faced extinction, when all hope seemed lost, the ancestors sent us a deliverer. That great green snake was no ordinary creature, it was a sacred messenger, an answer to our prayers. She looked around at every face, young and old. From this day forward, we make a covenant. We, the Tiv people, and all our descendants, will never harm a green snake. Not today, not tomorrow, not in 1,000 years. We will protect them as they protected us. We will honor them as sacred. For they came through for us in our darkest hour, when our very existence hung in the balance. We swear it, the people responded as one voice. And when our children ask why we do not kill green snakes, we will tell them this story, Kuman continued. We will remind them that we are alive because of a miracle, and that gratitude must be remembered, must be honored, must be passed down through all generations. And so it has been, from that day to this. The Tiv people rebuilt their lives in their new lands. They flourished and grew. They faced other challenges, other enemies, other hardships. But they never forgot the day the green snake saved them. When a Tiv farmer sees a green snake in his field, he does not reach for a hoe or a stick. Instead, he smiles and says, "Pass in peace, cousin. You are welcome here." When a Tiv child encounters a green snake on the path, her mother does not scream or panic. Instead, she teaches the child to give the snake space, to let it go on its way, and to remember the old story. Other tribes may wonder at this custom. They may think it's strange or superstitious. But the Tiv people know better. They know that some debts can never be repaid, only honored. They know that gratitude is not just a feeling but a way of life. They know that the sacred must be protected, for in protecting it, we protect ourselves. This is why, even today in Benue State, the green snake is sacred to the Tiv people. This is why their covenant has lasted for generations and will last for generations more. For they remember the day when their tribe stood at the edge of destruction, and a creature from the deep waters answered their prayers. And in remembering, they teach us all a profound truth, that help can come from unexpected places, that gratitude must be kept alive through action, and that some promises are too important to ever be broken. The Tiv people kept their word. And the green snakes of Benue still glide through the waters and the fields, protected and honored, living reminders of the day a miracle saved the nation.